When planning the road to success, there are a few steps to keep in mind. Identifying and solving the cause, facing and embracing change, goal setting, and being accountable. We'll talk about this today on Sustainable Success with Chris Salem. New and healthier habits lead to prosperity in all areas of your life and business. Now, here's your host, Chris Salem.
Welcome to Sustainable Success. My name is Chris Salem, your host, and it is hard to believe we are celebrating it'll be 8 years now. Sustainable Success has been on the airwaves since May 15th of 2017. We are a week away from 8 years, and we want to thank you listeners each and every week joining us here at Sustainable Success from our journey when we pioneered the Voice America Influencer channel back in 2017. And then since over the last couple of years, we joined the Voice America Business channel now to even broaden our audience even further. But we want to thank you listeners that have been with us since day one. And again, it's because of you, we keep coming back each and every week, bringing in subject matter experts to share their words of wisdom and insights to help elevate you and your business to the next level. Today's show is being brought to you today by Alumni Direct. Alumni Direct is a new social media community platform dedicated to bringing alumni together from all different generational types and an opportunity to meet new people for the first time. Now, it is a community program taking out all the noise out of social media. You get to come in and generate genuine and authentic relationships with the people you choose to interact with. It is a membership program, and it offers a wide array of different services for both personal and professional development. If you'd like some more information about Alumni Direct, check them out at alumnidirect.com. That's alumnidirect.com. Again, if you are new to our show, for the new listeners, again, you found us here at our new platform since January, Libsyn. We're also on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube as well. So feel free to check out our show in any of those particular areas to see many of our past guests that we've had on over the years. And again, helping you in almost every aspect of business and a level of influence that you can imagine. We've covered it here. But we're always welcome to new content. We also encourage you to follow us on our Facebook page at Sustainable Success 2017 as well. There you could get a lot of additional content in relations to each episode that you can participate and interact with. And it's a great way to get to know some of the hosts as well, or excuse me, the guest as well on the show. Well, we got a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about unlocking high performance, how business leaders can operate in the 9th Stratum. Yes, you're going to know what that 9th Stratum is here shortly. You know, we live in such a competitive landscape, and high performance isn't reserved for the chosen few. I mean, you're going to be learning today from our subject matter expert, Aaron Salko, how we can learn through repeatable discipline to really raise the level or the bar, so to speak, for leaders to break through current ceilings by mastering the 45 performance-based skill critical for elite success. So when you walk away, you're going to be really enlightened on where you are and where you want to go from here. A little bit about Aaron. Aaron is a father, husband, mentor, best-selling author, and founder of Stratum 9 with over 2 decades of experience in global entrepreneurial sales environments. Aaron has decoded the science behind human performance, fusing human biology, psychology, physiology, and social dynamics. His breakthrough 9th Stratum framework gives individuals and organizations a clear, measurable path to elite-level performance and fulfillment in life. As founder of Stratum 9, Aaron's mission is simple: help people realize their highest potential in career and find fulfillment in life. And without further ado, we welcome Aaron Salko to the show. Aaron, how you doing today?
Chris, thanks for having me on. And hey, congratulations on 8 years. That's an awesome milestone.
Thank you so much. I'm so looking forward to today. And I know we've gotten a lot of buzz around this topic, that when we posted on LinkedIn about the show, a lot of people wanting to know about this 9th Stratum. So we got a lot of curious minds out there. So I think how we always like to start, Aaron, is, the backstory behind it. What led you to kind of say, this is something that is sorely needed for business leaders, even organizations overall. What was the purpose, the drive behind the 9th Stratum?
Yeah, Chris, like many of us, we want to perform at our best, and like you said, although the 9th stratum to your listeners right now is pretty elusive, so isn't the word high performance. We all use it. And, truthfully, how many of us know what the hell it really means?
Yeah.
And so, that was really what struck me when one day someone called me in my early 30s a high performer. And, growing up as a child of baby boomers in a small town in Carbondale, Pennsylvania, and really, testing my own performance throughout my life, that acknowledgement was super. It was what I wanted to hear. And it felt great for about 5 seconds. And then I said, wow, this person called me a high performer. But what criteria did they use? Who is the governing body of high performance? And did they just set me up for failure because now I think I've arrived and I've reached that pinnacle of performance and I don't really have to do anything else? And I would go and into these meetings and around to organizations because that's what my job allowed me to do. And people would say, yeah, I have this high performing team. And it'd be like this gut punch every time I heard those words, and I got this, this person's a high performer. And in my mind, I'm going, high performing in what though? What does that really mean? And so it got to a point where I said, you know what? It's not good enough that this word is so loosely used. It's so subjective and so elusive. I said, we have to define this. We have to define it so that others understand it. And then we have to build a pathway so that those who want it can achieve it.
Yeah.
And that's what kicked it off. And
wow, that's fabulous.
Yes.
I always love the backstory there. And it's so when you brought this in, what do you feel like with business leaders today? Aaron, I mean, what is that challenge that, that they have? Is it enhancing those skills further or developing new ones or, or trying to get better at something they normally are not good at?
Yeah, that's a great question, Chris. And it's something I see a lot. As business leaders, we've reached that top pinnacle. Many are CEOs, many are executives, many have, lead teams. And, as we all move through life, our performance matters. But how many of us have actually taken the time to truly understand what our performance looks like? And it's okay if we don't, but if we don't continue that, and we don't really understand it, our impact on our organization, our impact on our employees and our coworkers, our friends, our family, it's nothing more than accidental. And, nobody likes accidents because accidents are unintentional. And so is it okay for business leaders to be moving through life, making an unintentional impact with their performance? And we see this all the time because they're so hyper-focused. I want high-performing teams and I want high-performing organization. Yet they never really look at themselves and say, hey, what does my performance look like? And how do I improve? And what are the metrics or, what are the attributes? What are the skills that I need to really hone in on to be better than I was yesterday? And that's what I see a lot in the business climates that I enter.
Wow, that's great. That's great. So, help us to understand, I mean, with your stratum, 9th stratum, I mean, everything's a process,
Yes.
if we're going to get to where we are, where we want to be, where does that usually start, Aaron, with you? Like whether you did it personally or what you're doing with the leaders you're working with?
Yeah, I guess, maybe I give you a little bit of background, not to bore your audience, but I did grow up in a very small town called Carbondale, Pennsylvania. And as humans, as individuals, we're shaped by our environments. We're shaped by our childhood and the influencers in that childhood. And I was very lucky. We didn't have a lot of money. It was a very, it was a coal mining town. But my mom was an educator and a chef, so she was the creative. My dad was a psychologist and a serial entrepreneur. So there's a lot of Jedi mind tricks played in my household as a kid. And, my uncles were doctors and dentists. So there's a heavy healthcare background there. My aunt was an English teacher, taught me everything I know about writing and how to be a good writer. As a matter of fact, Funny story. I used to send her, cards through the mail, and she would send them back to me redlined. Be correcting the typos, right? And my grandfather, who's a builder, so work ethic, he had this process for his work that I learned. And so as I took this through my life, I graduated college and really, I loved human biology. It was like one of the only classes that like really lit me up in high school. And so I studied that, psychology, obviously, because my dad, and I found myself driven towards physiology, and sports medicine and physical therapy. And when I got out of college, it just wasn't paying the bills. And so I entered into this global entrepreneurial sales environment for the company Stephen Gould. It's a great company. It's they revolve around in packaging, but really we're a global sourcing operation. And the format of the company is we were all entrepreneurs, and so I had to step into this role in global supply chains, managing global supply chains, sitting across the desk from C-suite executives, doing deals and everything that I was not trained for in college. I think I had maybe 15 credits, which were all psychology credits that could benefit me in this job role. And so I just defaulted to what I've always done was, I began to seek the high performers and the people who did a really good job within this organization. And I began to study them and understand what they were doing to be successful. In addition, I defaulted to everything I knew about the human body and mind. And I said, okay, I can use these things. I can study human behavior. I can understand how my performance can be impacted through physiology of the body and human biology. And I can use all these things to get really good at this job. And I did. And throughout, they promoted me and my sphere of influence grew within the organization. And then it led me to that one day where, this person called me a high performer in front of my constituents. And I was like, wow, there it is. That's what I've been working for. But all of this, right, is what I believe has truly helped me become the person I am today and really put forth the effort to produce this concept, this framework. And it allowed me to really study all aspects of performance. So, part of this whole concept of the 9th Stratum was identifying the skills that were critically necessary to becoming a high performer. And so not only did I study the individuals that I had to train on board, and perpetuate their success throughout the organization, but I interacted with a global community of manufacturing partners and customers. And I began to study their performance all the way up from CEOs to line workers. And I began to look at, the business moguls, sports athletes, what makes these people special? And all of these skills began to come to light, and they formed categories. And I said, okay, these are the things that really make people tick. But there was something missing. And as I began to look for more, I said, you know what? I'm going to do something that was way different than anybody who's really studied high performance or skills. I'm going to look at the low performers.
Yeah.
And Chris, let me tell you, the low performers taught me the most, because it is so easy to identify why someone failed or didn't succeed or the deficiencies they had. And so all of a sudden these skills came to light. I was like, wow. And so I had this list, and I really had to hone down the list because, as a skill, we had to develop criteria. What is the criteria of a skill? Well, it has to be able to be taught, learned, applied, and improved upon, right? It can't just be innate. It's like, hey, you can't be 6 foot tall and you're a high performer. So nothing's innate. We had to have these skills that meant something and that we can improve upon. And so this list came about. And for all your listeners, and maybe I'll save it till after our break, for all the listeners, while you're listening, just think about some of the skills of your high potentials and high performers and write them down, because I'm curious as to how many you'll have on your list from when we come back from break.
Well, we still got a little more time. We got about a couple of minutes to break. So if you want to elaborate? We could always do a deeper dive into right after our commercial break.
Sure. Well, so we have these skills, right? This list of skills, and I wanted to cover the spectrum of human performance. I didn't believe it was just about being great at your career. I believed it was true high performance is about being great in life. And so as I looked at this list of skills, I saw categories form, and these categories that came to light, I believed covered that spectrum, and they were mentality, cognitive abilities, mastery of emotions, social interaction, and the one that everybody forgets about. Can you take a stab at it, Chris?
Oh God, listening.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. That's a good one. That is a good one. But the fifth category is personal health.
Oh, personal
right?
health. Oh God, yeah.
Personal health, right?
Well, like they always say, if you can't, the oxygen mask, right? You gotta serve yourself before you serve your child. You got to take care of yourself.
Oh man, absolutely. And the personal health piece has so much to do with how well we focus. Our sleep. How much energy we have for the day, and so that was a major one.
Wow.
And so that was the 5 categories of human performance, and within each of those categories, there were these lists of skills that you could learn and improve upon.
Yeah, and I know you're going to go into more depth after the break, but again, it's not like these perceived super elite, like these professional athletes and these well-known high performers in business like that. They were just born with. Some people were born with certain innate abilities, of course.
Sure.
But these are things that if we put our mind and I know you're going to talk about discipline. And how we can develop these skills. I mean, we're never going to be great at everything, but there are things that we are good at, and we can even get better. And that's what I'm looking forward to hearing you share when you come back.
Yeah, absolutely. As it pertains to the athletes, if you look at an athlete, majority of what they do are career-based skills. Let's call them that, right? But a couple of years ago, Google produced this report, or this. They built an algorithm, and they studied, I think it was from like 2001, all of the business decisions they made on their employees, because they wanted to find out why the high performers in their organization stayed and what made them great. And they produced this algorithm which studied the business decisions they made on employees, such as like promotion, termination, hiring, who they hired, longevity of the stay, and so on and so forth. And what they found is these skills had nothing to do with the career-based skills, even down to STEM, had nothing to do with STEM. The skills that were most important were what society deems soft skills, and I hate that word, soft skills. They should not be called soft skills. As a matter of fact, we've recoined the term performance-based skills, because that's exactly what they are. Yeah. These are skills like composure, finesse, obviously listening, organization. These are the things that we need to do to be really, really good in our career. Because if you look at, you could take a study and you could put, 2 engineers next to each other, and they went to the same high school, got the same grades, go to the same college, right? Same professors, same studies, same grades. And then what happens? They get into the job, and one outperforms the other.
Absolutely. But I know we're going to go more into that, and this is just valuable stuff. When we hope everybody listening, we're going to get into the meat and potatoes here when we come back after the break with Aaron Salko. Really great stuff that can help you in any aspect where you are in your business. We'll be right back after the break.
What is balance? It's being true to your purpose and not being distracted by shiny objects, surrounding yourself with family and loved ones, nurturing your spirituality, maintaining healthy balance of emotional and physical wellness, and being present in the moment. Chris Salem creates awareness about unblocking mindset barriers for sales professionals, business leaders, entrepreneurs, and all types of people to have sustainable success at the next level. The solution evolves out of the problem or challenge. The issue is that many people and businesses manage the effect but do not address the root cause. You now have an opportunity to live your life and operate your business in the solution rather than the effect of your challenges. Schedule a time to chat about your goals and the person you desire to be by going to ChristopherSalem.com. We have group consulting calls, one-on-one, and other programs to assist you. It will be the best thing you do for yourself to see how sustainable success is possible for you in your life and business. Join us at the next level. Visit ChristopherSalem.com.
When it comes to business, you'll find the experts here. Voice America Business Network.
You are listening to Sustainable Success with Chris Salem. Send an email to Chris at ChristopherSalem.com. Now, back to Sustainable Success.
Welcome back to Sustainable Success. We're talking about unlocking high performance, how business leaders can operate in the 9th Stratum. We're here with Aaron Salko, again, a expert founder of Stratum 9 and also a best-selling author in the area of performance-based skills. And again, if you're just joining us, you can listen to the first segment of our today's show here in its entirety here later today here at the Voice America Business Channel on Lipson. Great information. So, Aaron, I know you briefly covered the 5 categories, and if you could kind of give us like a little, insight to some of the skills in those 5 categories you could share with us that, the listeners can start to really do some more due diligence for themselves.
Absolutely. And so it's the five categories of human performance. And just as a recap: mentality, cognitive ability, mastery of emotion, social interaction, and personal health. And as we said in the first segment, I asked the listeners, jot down what skills you have. If you had anywhere under 10 skills, make a note. If you had anywhere over 30 skills, make a note, because I'm going to tell you the actual number. And the actual number of performance-based skills that we've studied and validated are 45. So there are 45 performance-based skills, and they span across these 5 categories of human performance. And just to give you a little insight, like mentality, right? The first category. In mentality, you have perseverance, personal ownership, drive, and humility, right? These are all the mental skills of high performers. In cognitive abilities, you've got mental agility, visionary thinking, problem solving, and creative thinking. There's just a couple that are in that section. Mastery of emotion, man, we all need this one, right?
Oh,
Composure,
yeah.
right?
I know that area well. Master, you gotta operate from the inner champion, not the inner critic.
I love that, Chris. That's awesome. Yeah, composure, patience, coachability, optimism. These are all the ones we have to master our emotions. Social interaction is a big category. A couple that are in there are relatability, charisma, listening. You mentioned that before. Social awareness and empathy. And then in the final one, again, that one that everybody forgets about, personal health. I'm going to give you all 5 because we need to really focus on these: personal appearance, sleep quality, purposeful nutrition, physical activity, and mental well-being. So these are a bunch of the skills that lie within the spectrum of human performance.
Wow. Love this. So, with these areas, Aaron, depending upon where a business leader is, like where do you start? Do you start with what first category, or is there a certain, or is it always the same for each person, or that type of thing?
So that's a great question. So a lot of these skills start out as behaviors, right? And as I said, we're very molded by our environments as we grew up. But many of these skills you can attribute to specific job roles, all the way from a line worker to a CEO. And so when we look at these skills, we have to understand, where are we on these skills? And the second part of what we've done was we had to measure these skills, right? It's not good enough to know what the skills are. How many assessments have we ever taken that says, oh, you're good at this and this and this? You're like, okay, great. Now what do I do with that, right?
Yeah.
Well, we looked at this and said, no, we've got to measure this. We got to build a tool to measure this. And so that's where the 9 stratums of performance come from. And I'll run you through them really quickly. And these stratums were based on how humans learn. And we created this 9 stratums of human performance because the measuring tool couldn't be something like grades where where they're finite or they elicit an emotion. I see my daughters, they come home and they have a bad grade and they're sad. And I'm like, hey, it's just a grade, right? Or they become labeled. I was a BC student. What does that mean? Okay, I'm labeled. And we all do performance reviews, and they have the 1 through 5, numbers, and it's like needs improvement or whatever. And those weren't good either. So because those were very subjective. So we said, you know what? Let's build a tool to measure performance based on how humans learn. So the first stratum, we're just unaware. All right, it's usually a behavior like composure, and maybe we don't have it, and so maybe we just fly off the handle whenever something hits us. The second stratum is you're unconcerned. So you're aware of what composure is, but you're like, I don't care. I have a temper. I'm going to fly off the handle whenever the hell I want, right? That leads us to the third stratum. The third stratum is usually our aha moment. It's when somebody gives us feedback or we really screw up and it really impacts our performance. And so in that third stratum, maybe you say to me, Aaron, dude, you're in that meeting and you just flew off the handle. Your composure affected our ability to close that deal. And I go, oh boy, I got to fix this. That leads us to the fourth stratum. We begin to seek the tools necessary to improve. So what do? We look for books on composure. Maybe we find a coach. We watch videos. We start to grab these tools and latch onto them. And that leads us to the fifth stratum. What do we do with the tools? Well, we begin to read the book. We begin to interact with the coach. We begin to watch the video. And so now we're attaining that knowledge in the fifth stratum. That leads us to the sixth stratum. One of the scariest stratums, because what do we have to do with that knowledge? We got to jump off the cliff and try it. And that is usually a very messy event. We're probably not good at it. Usually in this language, I'm able to tell somebody, hey, I'm going into the sixth stratum on this. Keep an eye on me. And if I make a mistake, give me some feedback on it. And so the sixth stratum is when we're going to try that knowledge and we're going to try to begin to get good at it. That leads us to the seventh stratum, the practice stratum. All we're doing is practice, repetition. Repetition makes us better. We're still going to screw up. We're going to be inconsistent. We're going to know when we screwed up. We're going to raise our awareness a little bit more, but that's going to make us better. And when we get better, that leads us to the eighth stratum. And this is the cool thing, Chris. In the eighth stratum, this is where we see a lot of our high potentials and high performers, because in the eighth stratum, we are highly consistent. We are competent. We're even developing our own process so that when we need to use this skill, there's a process that we go through, not only mentally, but physically. We take action. And so we're highly consistent and competent in this skill. Then that leads to the ninth stratum. Those who develop their own process can begin to break this process down. And the biggest difference between the eighth and ninth stratum is the ninth stratum have mastered it so much that they can teach it to others. That's the big difference. And so when you look at all these stratums, if I'm in the fifth stratum, it's not like, hey, you're in the fifth stratum and there's your label and you kind of, you're just stuck there. You have a pathway to get to improvement. So you can go to the sixth stratum by trying these things, the seventh stratum by practicing, and the eighth stratum by getting more competent in it.
Wow. I love this. And the thing is now, if you could share, Aaron, it's something I learned a long time ago, and I learned it from someone, and then obviously it evolved over time, is the power of repeatable discipline. Not discipline that, somebody's, yelling at you or screaming at you, nothing like that, or, you're being scolded or anything, but the discipline of doing things that we normally are not used to doing, doesn't feel comfortable, but doing it anyway, knowing that that's what pushes us towards, enhancing those skills, like, things that we would have never thought were possible, but we didn't allow our heads to talk us out of it.
Yeah, Chris, you just said my favorite word on the planet. And I learned this word at a very young age when I wanted to make a baseball team, and I had to learn discipline. I had to go to the gym every day, even though I didn't want to. I always say that discipline has two components. I don't want to do this. I'm going to do it anyway, right? And that's discipline. And what's fascinating is in the neuroscience community, they've identified this area of the brain called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex. And they found that in athletes, this area is actually larger in athletes. And they actually studied it with people who were obese, and they found that it was actually smaller. But when these people who were obese began to diet, it got bigger.
It got bigger.
And so, like, think about it. We have a discipline muscle in our brain. Like,
yes.
Hello, we can build discipline. This is fantastic.
Yeah.
Right. And so, like doing hard things, doing things that make us uncomfortable, that repetition and getting over the hump of, I don't want to do this, I'm going to do it anyway, actually makes doing those things easier every single time you do them. In the beginning, just, a lot of the people that I interact with, I'm a 5 a.m. guy. Like, I wake up at 5 a.m. I go right to the gym.
You're like me. I'm up early, up early and at the gym, or I do meditation, journaling. I have a routine that I do every morning.
I knew we got along well, Chris.
Yeah. 26 years now. It's been a long time.
Yeah, man. I love it. That's awesome. But like, I don't know if you can take yourself back to the first day you did it. You were like, oh, God, what the hell am I doing?
Well, first of all, I didn't let you know that I was born with ADHD. So when it was very difficult because the ADHD would take over. But I credit the routine, the discipline with the routine is what has curbed the symptoms of my ADHD. I'm on no medication. And as long as I keep doing what I'm doing, people, like, if I tell people I have ADHD, they're like, you don't have ADHD. There's no way.
I would never. Yeah. Never.
Never.
No, never guessed it.
Yep.
And Chris, you're an avid guy who's in the gym and working out. You're in great shape. There's a bunch of great human performance studies on ADHD and exercise and how it actually it does make those symptoms either reduce or completely disappear.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Actually, it's a great book. I'll give the author a plug, John Ratley, I believe it is. It's Spark. Somebody can fact check me on that. But Spark, great book on that. But yeah, so discipline is a key to what we do and how we get better at it. And discipline is a muscle. So everybody out there, do hard things that you don't want to do.
Yeah, it's so true. And like you said, it gets a little easier, but you never want to become complacent with that either. You got to change it up and keep you outside your comfort zone to keep growing, because nothing grows in a comfort zone.
I agree. And hey, Chris, like when we talk about leadership, right? And all the leaders who are listening to this, and I've experienced it myself, as we get more successful and we climb those ranks, it gets easier to say, I'm not doing that, right? Like, it gets easier to delegate it or to do something that's, or not to do something. And so we've got to be hyper disciplined as we climb those ranks, as we get those bigger positions, and as we lead teams, because our performance matters. All eyes are on us all the time. And even when you think people aren't looking, they're looking.
Yeah.
But the great thing is when you do something different that you haven't done, when you change your routine or when you change your behavior, all of a sudden people notice and they say, hey, you did something different. And I like what you did there. And I want you to teach me what you did there because I want to do that too. Our impact is so profound and we just have to pay more attention sometimes.
Yeah, that's true. True. Love it. Love it. This is great stuff that you're sharing here. And I know we got, less than 3 minutes before the break. I don't know if, Aaron, you want to elaborate any further what you had just talked to her, because I know we'll use the next segment to kind of get into another area. But, I guess what I would just say, if you want to elaborate what you shared with the 5 categories in the skill, this is a process, I guess we have to be tied to the process, not to the outcome itself, because we get tied up in the outcome, we get lost in the control we can't control, versus in the process, I can control what I'm doing right now.
Well, that's a great point, Chris. And listen, I know 45 performance-based skills over 5 categories of human performance seems very daunting. We don't have to be great at all 45, okay? Let's just call that what it is. The road to high performance, the road to the 9th stratum is a journey. It's a never-ending journey. That's why there's no 10th stratum. I always equate a 10 as to the gymnast sticking the landing and getting the perfect 10. It's a fleeting moment. It's, you get that 10, but somebody else is going to do better than you next time. and you can even improve on yourself next time. And that's the road to high performance. It's a constant improvement. We never arrive. We're always looking to be better than we were yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. 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 Well, I mean, I know we still got about a couple minutes, like less than a couple minutes. So, what you've just shared is so enlightening. I hope listeners that you're taking note, no matter if this is for personal, professional development, all these are skills that can be used uniformly across all areas of your life. Correct, Aaron? If I'm not mistaken, that it doesn't matter if this is something personal, professionally, combination of both. And I'm sure the consistency is going to be better if you do apply it to both.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and again, this is not high performance is not just about career. It is about life. And when you look at these 45 performance-based skills, do yourself a favor. Key in on the ones that you believe that you're really good at. Then key on the ones that you might need some work at. Then key on the ones that you might be ignoring. And I guarantee you it'll be enlightening, because every one of these skills that you're ignoring or that you need improvement in can be improved. All you have to do is take the steps to begin the journey of improvement and getting into that 5th stratum, that 6th stratum, that 7th stratum.
Wow. Great stuff. And again, everybody, this is a show that listen, go back and listen to this show again. I always find that we've done this over the years where when people have gone back and re-listened, you're going to pick up something that you may have maybe looked when it was first mentioned. That's really going to sink in. And when it sinks in, that's the things that are going to help, make today the day that you're going to make a change and make a difference to do something better. What Aaron is sharing here today. So powerful. Well, everybody, we got to go to break, but when we come right back, we got more to come with Unlocking High Performance, how business leaders can operate in the 9th Stratum. We'll be right back after the break.
What is balance? It's being true to your purpose and not being distracted by shiny objects, surrounding yourself with family and loved ones, nurturing your spirituality, maintaining healthy balance of emotional and physical wellness, and being present in the moment. Chris Salem creates awareness about unblocking mindset barriers for sales professionals, business leaders, entrepreneurs, and all types of people to have sustainable success at the next level. The solution evolves out of the problem or challenge. The issue is that many people and businesses manage the effect but do not address the root cause. You now have an opportunity to live your life and operate your business in the solution rather than the effect of your challenges. Schedule a time to chat about your goals and the person you desire to be by going to ChristopherSalem.com. We have group consulting calls, one-on-one, and other programs to assist you. It will be the best thing you do for yourself to see how sustainable success is possible for you in your life and business. Join us at the next level. Visit ChristopherSalem.com. Follow Voice America at Facebook.com/Voice America for juicy updates from your favorite radio shows and podcasts. You are listening to Sustainable Success with Chris Salem. Send an email to Chris at ChristopherSalem.com. Now, back to Sustainable Success.
Welcome back to Sustainable Success, talking about unlocking high performance, how business leaders can operate in the 9th Stratum. We're here with Aaron Salko. And again, our show is being brought to you today by Alumni Direct. Alumni Direct is a new social media community platform dedicated to bringing alumni together from all different generational types and an opportunity to meet new people for the first time. Now, it also features From Athlete to Entrepreneur's Corner. Yes, for those professional athletes now that are transitioning into everyday life, whether if you're buying a franchise, becoming an entrepreneur, or even working in a traditional career, you have an opportunity now to collaborate and bond with other people like yourself doing the same thing, where you can form groups to share ideas and to help make this transition more seamless for yourself. There's also a podcast that comes out weekly in the area, From Athletes to Entrepreneurs, hosted by the founder, Rob Finkelstein. If you'd like some more information about that, for if you're a professional athlete transitioning into everyday life, feel free to check out Alumni Direct at alumnidirect.com. That's alumnidirect.com. And without further ado, we want to bring back Aaron Salko back. Aaron, how do you when you're working with like let's say a high performing team or one that's desiring to be a high performing team, how do you identify and develop those with that you can identify that are going to have the potential to really enhance those skills to take it to the next level?
Man, that is a great question. And Chris, it's such a daunting task to really identify those on our teams that are the difference makers, right? When we go into organizations and I do sessions and stuff like that, I always tell the organization leaders, I'm not looking for the dead weight here. I'm looking for the difference makers. I want the ones who are going to literally change your organization. They're going to be next generation that really takes it to the next level. And so throughout the process of uncovering the essence of high performance, we identified these 9 traits of high performers. And if you really want to build high performing teams, hey, stop looking at the resumes, stop looking at the assessments. Look for the traits and then feed them. Feed them before you lose them. There's I don't know, I think it was Gartner that put it out, or McKinney, which was the cost to organizations for employees for onboarding, training, hiring, and termination, and it was like something like 200% of the salary paid. That's substantial. Millions and millions are going out the door because we can't identify true talent and put them in the right positions to win. And so when you're looking at your teams, right, some of the traits that we've identified of high performers, first one, right, goal focused. Their high performers are driven by an ongoing pursuit of meaningful goals. They're constantly seeking the next challenge to achieve something. The second one is knowledge driven. They're like sponges, right? They are relentless in acquiring and applying knowledge. The third one's personal growth driven. These are committed to self-improvement. They're always actively seeking personal development. The fourth one, experience focus. They learn through action. So they value the real world experiences to expand their skills and their insights. The fifth one is network driven. Some of these high performers, they build diverse, supportive networks, and they contribute to others' success, and they see value in this collaboration. The sixth one is disciplined in self-evaluation. So they have a regular, daily, weekly, monthly self-assessment, and they're committed to refining their approach. And that's one of their core values. It's their core habits. The seventh is motivated by failure. How many people know this one, right? They view setbacks as opportunities for growth. They use failures to fuel their perseverance for improvement. And the eighth one, altruism motivated. I love this one. We really need to lean in this one more. High performers that we see are often driven to succeed, not just for themselves, but to make a positive impact on others. Man, these are the difference makers. These are the people we want in leadership positions. They are not self-focused. And then the last one, my favorite, health focused. They prioritize both physical and mental health, recognizing that well-being is essential for sustained performance. And so within each one of these traits, there are 5 to 7 of these performance-based skills. Just for example, goal focused, right? In that, the skills of focus, drive, visionary thinking, organization, and perseverance are very prevalent. In discipline and self-evaluation, the skills of emotional self-awareness, work ethic, personal ownership, relatability, and personal appearance are very prevalent. So you can match skills up to these traits of high performers. And so why are these traits important? Well, they're important because when we have people on our team, just like people learn differently, so don't they perform differently. And they perform differently when they're given the opportunity that fits their trait. And so if you've got somebody who's goal focused, a high potential or high performance goal focused, they want goals. They want you to set high bars because they're going to go after them. That's what drives them. That's their motivation, right? If you've got somebody who's personal growth driven, man, they want that. They want that personal development chance. They want to be challenged to learn something new. And this is what's going to keep them in your organization and not looking to go somewhere else. Those who are network driven, get them out of the building. Let them go and talk to everybody and anybody about your organization and how good they are. Network driven individuals are fantastic. And the ones that are motivated by failure, right? Listen, challenge these people. These are the
Yeah.
ones who will get up after a tough one. If you give them like, hey, this is a tough assignment. I don't know if we're going to be able to hit it. Go for it. And if they fail, they're not going to leave. They're not going to be down. They're going to be like, okay, I learned a lot from that. Let's go. Give me another one. Put me in, coach.
Well, I always said when I look back, I've learned more and achieved more success from drawing off my setbacks, failures, and major challenges, like things that
Yeah.
normally I could have checked out or quit or walked away from, and just stepped right back up, and I don't know about for me, when you said that, Aaron, for me, what was the big shift for me back then was a long time
Yeah,
ago
please.
when I let go of expectations of myself and others. I focused on what are my intentions today? That's all I got to focus on today.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, just that, as I said, we're all sort of molded by our upbringing. Do you remember any kind of pivotal moment in your life where, you could have went left, but you went right? And, that sort of drove you down this path that you're on today?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, well,
What
there's
was it?
many of them, but for
Yeah.
me, I mean, everybody knows this on this show because the show was started based upon this premise: sustainable success. I had hit rock bottom when I was 31 years old. I struggled 12 years of addiction at the time. At the time, I was, I had a great career. I mean, I was doing well as producer, but I was losing people as quickly as I was gaining it because I really was not easy to work for, and
Wow.
customers would get fed up with me after. Initially, I would develop them, bring them in, but it was I didn't have a great relationship with my father growing up. My dad was emotionally checked out, not usually around. But when he died at the age of 56 of cancer, and when he was on his deathbed, the day before he died, I remember him looking over at me. Couldn't talk. He was on morphine, but I could hear him talking to me in some other way. I can't explain it
Yeah.
to this day. And he looked at me and said, "I just want to let you know that I've always loved you, your brother, and your mother. My parents have been divorced up to that point." He goes, "I did the best I could with what I knew." Now, he didn't use it as and I looked at it, I said, "Wait a minute. My dad was always the black sheep of the family. My grandfather treated him like garbage. He came from nothing and became successful, but yet the mistake that he made is he immersed himself into his business to become successful because he wanted money because he never had it growing up, and he
Wow.
sacrificed his family for it. And now
Wow.
he paid the price with his health because he didn't know, he suppressed everything.
Mm.
But he said
Yeah.
he did the best he could with what he knew. And when I heard that, like, all this time I was the victim in everything, every aspect of my life. I was a victim. My father was
Yeah.
the cause of it. The world was the cause of it. You were the cause of it. And that was the first time in my life I said, no matter what cards I've been dealt with, it's my responsibility. And that was my first demonstration of discipline that I've
Yeah,
ever had
man.
in my life. And I never looked back.
Oh man, Chris, I love that story, and I knew you and I were kindred spirits.
Yeah.
I'll share mine
Yeah.
real quick. As my father, he was a hemophiliac, and I was 16 at the time, and he sat the family down and said, "Hey, we have some devastating news. There is this virus, and we don't know what it is, and I don't have a lot of time left. There's no cure for it." My dad had contracted the AIDS virus through a bad blood transfusion.
Oh God.
And like you, I spent the night with him in the
Yeah.
hospital before he passed away. And that morning, woke up and he said, Aaron, this isn't going to be easy. And he said, you need to take care of your mom in the restaurant and your brother and your sister, make sure they stay on the path, make sure they get a good education. And, oh, hey, by the way, you got to figure out college, right? Keep the revenue coming in for the restaurant and listen, just, do great in life. And I was like, Roger that. And I left that morning and he passed away, in an elective surgery. He knew he wasn't going to survive. And,
Yeah.
that was my pivotal moment, man. I was like,
Yeah.
I could have went left and stayed in Carbondale, Pennsylvania, ran a restaurant, but I figured it all out. I chose right, went to college, and that set me on my path as well. So
I love it. Well, those are the kind of stories we love to hear. Why we brought you on. We bring in authentic, genuine people that share from experience, and that's what we love here at Sustainable Success.
Hey, Chris, can I share something with you? Because
sure.
It was something we sort of skipped over. So in the beginning of this whole journey, I had to define high performance. It was this elusive word. I said, the first thing we got to do is we got to define this thing. And I want to share with you because in it is the name of your podcast. So it goes, the definition, you won't find this in the Webster's dictionary, but you will find this in the 9th Stratum, your guide to high performance, found on Amazon.com. High performance is the daily pursuit of excellence in all aspects of work and life that ultimately result in continuous goal achievement and sustained personal success. It requires the consistent day after day improvement of personal performance driven by the desire to advance skills, knowledge, and behaviors. Bam! There it was, Chris. You nailed it.
It doesn't get better than that. Wow. Well, Aaron, this is great. We want to have you back on for another follow-up show soon. We'll let you know when. This is great information. I know we're getting towards the end of the show, and I want to make sure everybody listening and those listening later can have an opportunity to get to know you. What is the best place for them to reach you? Know what you're up to, and anything you'd like to leave with them or provide them here.
Yeah, I'm doing my best with social media, Chris. It wasn't one of my heavy skill sets, but I'm leaning in. So you can find me on LinkedIn. You can hit me up there. I also have a Facebook and Instagram handle, which is the 9th Stratum. So you can check me out there. And the book is on Amazon. You can also find it on a couple other sites. But also, we did do an audiobook too. And the audiobook on it actually has my business partner, Kelly Johnson. She did end of chapter interviews, which really takes a deeper dive into each chapter. And the chapters are all set up, as a progression of performance. So, it's everything from this beginning and understanding high performance to your routines, habits, and discipline through relationship building, all the way up to the 9th chapter, which is visionary thinking and why everybody on your team should be a visionary thinker, not just leaders at the top.
Wow. Oh, powerful. And anything, as we have like about a minute and a half remaining, Aaron, any kind of parting comment or statement that you would like to leave the audience on a high note of all the great wisdom and information that you shared here with us today?
Yeah. The one thing that I always hear, and I call it the golden excuse, I just don't have the time, right? And as leaders, it's tough. I get it. I've been there. And we don't have the time until we make the time. And I encourage everybody out there who is really struggling with this to really begin a deep personal assessment. Where can the time be found? If you're waking up and you're running through life with utter chaos in the morning, look at that area. Chris, as I said, as you said, you're a 5 a.m. guy. There's a reason for that. I love 5 a.m. You know why? Because nobody's bothering me. I can get up and do whatever I want. And I got to be quiet in the house, but I get my reading done. I get, like you said, you journal. We got my fitness in. I eat well, right? And everything before everybody in America wakes up, I've got a half a day in, right? Or at night, and our behaviors, as leaders, we really have to look deep in what we are doing, assess every routine from our morning routines to our workday routines, to even the routine to go to bed. Sleep is not just an innate thing that we do as humans. It is an activity, and we have to get good at it. I can talk more about that, and maybe
we'll definitely we'll be in touch with another show to follow us soon here. And well, Aaron, I want to thank you personally and everybody here with the rest of the team here at Sustainable Success for taking the time to be with us here today. We are very grateful to have you on the show today.
Hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me on, Chris. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. And listeners, we want to thank you each and every week for joining us here at Sustainable Success. Again, it's people that, that come in to listen to this show each week. We count on you. And this is why we're here, to bring in subject matter experts like Aaron to share their insights and experience to help elevate you and your business to the next level, both from a business and influence level. Again, we encourage everybody again to listen to the show in its entirety. Reach out to Aaron on LinkedIn. Get your hands on the book as well. All of that information will be in the show notes on Libsyn. Again, that way you can click on those links and make those connections. And again, do it. Just don't say you're going to do it. Do it. Till then, everybody, have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next Thursday at the same time. Take care.
Thank you for tuning into Sustainable Success. Be sure to join Chris Salem and his guests every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Time and 3 p.m. Eastern Time on the Voice America Business Channel. Have an incredible week.